the whole 30-second rule thing.
I'm Austin.
And I'm Cloud.
This is We Watch Movies. Brought to you by Heat. Because without heat, you'd be cold.
This week's movie is Heat. Heat is a 1995 action crime neo-noir crime thriller film directed by Michael Mann, starring Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Val Kilmer, Tom Sizemore, Diane Verona, Amy Brenneman, Dennis Haysbert, Ashley Judd, McClady Williamson, Wes Studi, Ted Levine, William Fichtner, Natalie Portman, Tom Noonan, and John Voight. Out of that synopsis.
A whole bunch of previously famous actors kind of got smashed together into this movie where Al Pacino actually plays a detective, a homicide detective, who was like an ex-Marine, who worked in narcotics, who do long track record. And then you have Robert De Niro and his crew, who includes Val Kilmer, and Danny Trejo, and they do jobs and they rob places. And then if you can't be attached to anything you can't leave in 30 seconds. And so no women, except there's women. Like, they all have women. And they all have family problems. And that's pretty much everyone either gets shot or gets left. And or cheated on. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
And Natalie Portman kills herself. Or attempts to. And they save her. Which looks like it's supposed to save the marriage, but then it's like 10 minutes later, it's the end of the movie because because Al Pacino ends up just shooting him, and it's like, okay, well, that works for me.
He kept his television set, though.
Until he threw it out the car.
Yeah. It was weird that they both said television set, like, both times.
Yeah.
Because he was like, you can't watch my television set! And she was like, put the television set down. And it's like, who says television set in 95?
Yeah.
Like, that seems like a very, like, in the early days of television kind of thing that people would say, not a 1995 thing. Like, have you ever said the television set?
No.
Or the TV set, I guess?
No, it's always just been the TV.
Yeah. Now, I do sort of, I don't practice it all the time, but I do sort of like saying television rather than TV, but I don't do it all the time. So.
If I'm doing like a fake accent, I'll say television.
It's a lot easier to do a word in an accent than it is to do two letters in
exactly.
an accent. So, television. Yeah, there's a lot of people in this. And you notice that entire list doesn't mention Danny Trejo, even though he's in it as like a fairly significant character.
Yeah. See, he's included in important scenes, and that's the difference.
Yeah. Although he doesn't even he doesn't get a movie. I guess he does get a movie name, but his movie name is his actual, like, he doesn't have a first name.
It's
unless
just Trejo.
Trejo is his first name. It's hard to say. Because a lot of the time people refer to each other by, well, I don't know, because it seems like everybody calls Al Pacino Vincent, even though that's his first name. Like, even the other police call him Vincent. Van Zandt, we assume, is his last name, but he never gets a first name because he's only referred to for business purposes. And he's not actually there very much. He just comes in and out so that we remember that he exists so that he can get killed later. But his name is just Trejo. Although, and actually, I guess it is his last name because in the credits, I guess, is it his wife or his daughter or whoever gets murdered in the house with him when, like, the guy that used to be in the crew comes in and kills them? She's credited as a name and Trejo, so she's I guess Trejo is his last name. But it's weird. He gets his actual name.
If you're watching this movie with an actual surround sound, you're going to feel a lot of bass.
There's a lot of bass, yeah.
Because they decided to go full Monty with the sound
They
effects.
decided to roll out the bass cannon.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh yeah, like you're going to be right beside this rifle when it's firing. Remember that plane? You're going to be underneath that
Yeah,
plane.
we're right underneath this plane. You're right beside this helicopter.
Yeah. You will feel it on your insides, we promise.
Or at least you're supposed to. Your TV set system may vary. If you're just watching this on your TV set, probably not gonna feel it. But why would you do a full thing like that?
And this movie does have some really good action sequences. Because like I think the only action scene is whenever they're doing like the bank escape and they're being chased. Everything else feels more like it's just a sequence. You know, like,
I guess the part at the airport at the end is supposed to be sort of action.
But see, it's so slow.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, they're not shooting each other very much. They're mostly just like running from thing to thing and trying to get a look at each other so that they can shoot each other. But there's not a lot of. It's not like the bank robbery is the height of the action.
Yeah, and it's just like a camera over here. We're doing all these cuts back and forth. Like stuff like that, it makes it feel more actiony than it is, and that's why it's just I'm just gonna call it a sequence, just so we can elevate the actual action that this movie handed us. And it went on for a while.
It does go on for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, like they just they're gentlemen, and they walk into the bank with their gloves and their briefcases, and then they just drop it and everybody get on the ground.
Well, and I thought at first that, well, isn't it kind of suspicious to be wearing gloves? But then, like, an old lady walks by and she's wearing gloves too, and so it's like, well, maybe it's cold or something. I don't know. And so there is a lot of talk of like getting your coat, and like people wear sort of heavy clothes a lot of the time. It's Los Angeles. I'm not sure exactly what time of the year it's supposed to take place. It came out in December, but I don't know. It's hard to say when it is exactly. They never tell us. And because it's Los Angeles, like it might be a little cooler than normal, but it's not going to be like snow or anything where it's obviously like this is winter and palm trees don't turn amber and stuff when fall hits. So there's no real way to know. So this apparently was a remake of what was supposed to be a television series that only got a pilot, which was then later released as a TV movie called LA Takedown, which was shown on television in '89, which would be sort of interesting to see how the TV version compares. I'm not where if this was the pilot, like where does this go?
Yeah, especially well, I mean, I can
like,
understand.
Are we supposed to follow Al Pacino around as like a detective, or?
Well, I can kind of feel that like maybe the like De Niro's character wasn't supposed to be killed off.
Maybe, and they're just like always chasing, like he's pulling jobs and Pacino's after him, and they never catch each other.
And they're like, okay, well, we need to find some kind of closure, so we're gonna rewrite the ending where he tries to leave and then he decides to go for revenge instead, and we can use that as a lead up for, you know, him dying. Especially because we had to pay off for that leave in 30 seconds kind of thing.
Yeah, which he does have a bit of trouble with because he goes back to get the woman that I guess he's been with for however long the story has been going on, which isn't that long. But
well, it's about you have to leave it in 30 seconds when you can feel the heat around the corner. And so he was going to go back anyways until he saw the detective, and he's like, oh, well, shit, now I got to go. Because like everybody else that's here doesn't know who I am except for that guy, so I got to leave. If he wasn't there, he probably would have just gotten in the car and drove off anyways. Or waited until someone made room for him to drive through, because he's not going forward.
Yeah.
Like, there's fire trucks in the way.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to have to back up.
There is, right at the beginning, before anything has really happened, there's a whole lot of at least intention of tension.
Yeah.
Because we see De Niro, he's just walking through a hospital. We don't know who he is. We don't know that he's not supposed to be in the hospital, that he's pulling anything. But we already have what will eventually be the robbery music, which is just kind of like, din, 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 dun, dun, and like it's tense and he's just walking around a hospital. He gets in an ambulance and he drives it off, and we don't know anything. And then we go away from that to see home life of Al Pacino's character. And then we come back into the first robbery, and then that's tense again. So like there's an amount of intensity right away, even before we understand why there should be. And they never really give us a good look at what either of the plans are. Like this isn't Ocean's 11 or something. Like we're not in on the plan. Like they give us little bits of things like, well, you can cut into the computers and disable the alarms and stuff for the bank job later. But the first one, we don't know what's going on. It's just like there's De Niro in an ambulance. There's
the guy with the coffee.
The guy with the coffee who doesn't wait around to get his coffee.
Yeah.
Val Kilmer is like buying a box of dynamite or something. We don't know what, but we don't know who he is. He's just like at a construction supply place in, I suppose, Arizona, because he seems to have shown an Arizona license. And then they say later, like, you can buy it here and here and here, and with just a driver's license. And one of the places they mentioned is Arizona, and that's close to California. And we don't know what's going on. And then a robbery happens.
Okay, so we were talking about that robbery, and they use those explosives to like cut a charge, cut a hole in the metal just to get it open, which is fine. But I'm surprised that the people inside, like the driver, I could understand because there's a bit more distance and then more material for the shockwave to go through. But the other two people were like right there beside it. Like the fact that they were even conscious anyways, it's kind of surprising.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's ears bleed and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, they seem kind of like they are standing up, but if you look at their eyes, they're kind of like, so they're like conscious, but not really, sort of. It seems like they are in some kind of shock still.
Well, it only starts off that way, and it seems to like wear off, because remember, they only have 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And within that 3 minutes, like all of these guys get sobered up really fast. Like he's giving me these eyes, man. And then like the other cop like does
he's
the
just
kneel
a
down.
Hothead, though. So.
Like the other cop like kneels down to like grab his ankle pistol. Like the only one who I would say is probably still messed up would be the one they killed last, because you could see him fumbling as he's trying to walk forward.
Yeah.
And so like that one, I would give more leeway towards that character.
So I do wonder. What we're supposed to feel.
Half this movie, I don't even know what to say about it. Like, oh yeah, you want bank heist, you want robbery, you want some police drama, here you go. I'm emotionally dead. Like there's the only thing I feel is bad for Natalie Portman's character, because she like cut open her leg and her arm and then tried killing herself.
Which I'm not even sure why, because like you had this theory early on when we had no idea what was going on. That her actual father, that isn't Al Pacino because it's his third marriage, and that he never shows up to pick her up when he's supposed to, and he's really absentee, and it's one of the things that's kind of straining the relationship within the family. And you thought that maybe it was Robert De Niro. Yeah. That he was really the father, and that the whole thing was going to kind of link up, and Al Pacino was going to realize he's the father. And that doesn't happen. The father is someone who we never meet, who never gets a name, and doesn't show up at the hospital. She doesn't go to stay with when the marriage is breaking up. For some reason, she shows up at Pacino's hotel room, which I don't know how she knew where it was.
Or how she was even allowed in.
Well, I mean, you could come to the desk and say, like, my father, like, this is my father's room, and, like, they would probably let you in, I guess. I don't really know why she wanted to kill herself. She does seem to take things very dramatically. She has a hair barrette emergency for several minutes in the second scene of the movie. And then we don't really see her much after that.
Yeah, I guess if we got a bit more, I don't know, maybe they did, and we just never received it in the final edit, because this movie is 2 hours, 50 minutes. And so, like, that, maybe there was something that we just didn't receive. Like, the only other time I remember seeing her is she was waiting on a bench for her mom to come pick her up. And then that's when Pacino drove by and was like, here, let me just take you home.
Yeah.
So that was awfully nice of him.
Apparently there is a what's called the Director's Definitive Edition that was released on Blu-ray in 2017, which I don't know, I assume is longer, but so maybe there are additional things, or maybe reordering of things, I don't know. How long is the definitive version? It's also like a multi-part name for an edition. It's not the definitive edition. It's not the director's cut. It's the director's definitive edition.
Sounds pretty pretentious.
It kind of does. Well, this says that it's 170 minutes, which is the normal length, isn't it?
Yeah, it sounds about right.
So I don't know what the difference is supposed to be. There are deleted scenes, but only about 9 minutes worth, so that doesn't seem like that would make that much difference.
I don't know, maybe a proper ADR for Robert De Niro being like, I said I was never going back. 'Cause I'm serious. Like, it didn't look like he moved his mouth at all when he said that. Like, I was kind of fine with it because it didn't really like, oh God, my immersion has been broken. But at the same time, it just kind of seemed like it sounded too smooth for the amount of mouth motion that he gave us. So
there are times every now and then where you get sort of what you expect from sort of later period Al Pacino, where he just goes from being like, there seems to me this may get us like angry letters, but well, no, not like EKG Pacino, because
that's how his talking was.
Well, yeah, but he doesn't
normally. They're talking really loud.
Yeah, there is, and maybe this will get us angry letters. I don't know, but there seems to me to be in later day Pacino something of a similarity between him and Nicolas Cage, where like you can get like really like calm and serious and thoughtful and well acted Nicolas Cage and Al Pacino, and then sometimes they can just go from like they can like do the EKG thing where he can be talking and then he's talking up here and it's really intense, and sometimes that's what you need, and so sometimes that's why you get Nicolas Cage and sometimes why you get Al Pacino, because when you're going to when he's talking to the guy about women, and he's like, when I think of a woman's ass, like there are not very many people who can play that scene in the way, at least that it seems to be written, and have it not just be like, hang on, what are we watching right now? And like, I think you could slot in Nicolas Cage right there and have him play that scene, and it would be similar, and in mostly the effective way that it is.
Well, see, I think it's kind of funny because regardless, it's what he ends up saying, because he actually says something comes out of it. Mm-hmm. Like, that is what he says, and
he says something comes out of me. I think he says, because the guy says, "Oh, aggressive," and he's like, "When I think about it, something comes out of me." Like, that's what he seems to be doing. Which I don't know why that sounds more like Bernie Sanders than Al Pacino, but I don't have a very good Al Pacino, I guess. Although the voice is different, but the cadence is very similar, I suppose. So maybe that's what's happening. So are either Al Pacino or his wife, like, are we okay with both of them, or are they both being people that are like that, or is she or is he, or did they just like, because they both seem to be kind of like she seems like someone that's like that at first, But then she's kind of reasonable later where she's like, well, like, I understand, but like, I'm just getting the leftovers here. And he's like, I guess I'm just giving you the leftovers here. And so they kind of come to an agreement that this is like, yeah, this is who he is. And maybe that's not what's right for them to be together. But she isn't really doing the like, you're never home, I never see you. And he's like, I am a police officer, what do you want? Like, he does a little of that, but they do hedge it in some of the later scenes.
Well, it almost feels like her viewpoint shifts between like up and down.
Yeah.
So much, because it's like, I'm kind of okay with it because I can understand, but now I'm upset because like I don't get enough. And then since I don't get enough, I'm going to like cheat on you. But now that my daughter like almost killed herself, now I'm okay with it. And it's just like, listen. Now, I am going to blame both of them on this, because we do get the little spiel from Pacino talking about how he keeps it inside because it's what gives him his edge. But at the same time, like, you could have just said, well, would you like me just to come home and tell you that I had to, handle the body of a 17-year-old girl who was raped and then murdered, and then her mother showed up, and then I had to try and help calm the mother down as she was looking at her dead daughter. I would rather keep that inside than make you suffer through that.
Yeah, well, like, the example he gives is like, so I went into this crack house, and they had microwaved a baby because they wouldn't stop crying. And do you want me to share that with you? And it's like, wow.
Yeah. But see, like, we don't actually get to see that, though.
No, we don't get to see that.
And so, like, him telling about the scene that he had just got away from, it's something that, like, we could connect on ourselves because we had to go through that with him. And we also got to mostly watch her be murdered anyways.
Yeah.
So we know it's real. Not to say that somewhere, somehow, some crackheads put an infant inside of a microwave.
Oh, they probably have. I'm sure they probably have. There's a...
Infants are not microwavable safe. Don't do it.
No. Like, there's an episode of Dragnet, like 60s Dragnet, and I think it's in the last season, where they come into a house and, like, the people are on drugs. It wouldn't be crack then, because the CIA hadn't invented it yet, but... They come in and like both of the people are high, and then there's like a baby crying somewhere, and like they go off to find it, and it's like it's in the bathtub with like nothing, and there's like a blanket over the top of it so that they can't really hear it, and Joe Friday comes out and gives them a stern talking to, and so that I'm sure something like that has happened. There's a lot in this. So there's...
I know, it's hard.
No. I have a place I want to go.
The Bahamas. I myself would rather go to Hawaii, regardless of the hurricane.
A timely reference. It is a timely reference because that's why this is the episode that we're doing and Kenny isn't here, because Kenny's busy like on the news covering, like, being on hurricane... what did I say he called it? Hurricane. They're in hurricane mode at the station that he works at. So it is a show important timely reference. But there's a video game series that's the Driver series. The first one is called Driver, subtitled "You Are the Wheelman," which is terrible. And then there's Driver 2, and then there's Driver 3, and then Parallel Lines, and then San Francisco. In Driver 3, which in some connection to, I don't know if it's the last episode or the one before that, I can't remember, where we talked an awful lot about Michael Madsen. He is actually the voice of the main character Tanner in that one, which he isn't in the other ones. And it's like, that's the best capturing of the characters that go throughout the series. And it's a somewhat disappointing of a game because they decided to release it before it was done. Like, the publisher just took it away from the development studio and was like, we're putting it out even though it's not done because people will buy it because it says Driver on it and it's a popular series. And so it has a lot of problems, but I still have a fair amount of attachment to it, and there are things about it that I like a lot. But it the whole series pulls a lot from various different movies that involve crime involving cars and various other heists and things. And in 3 in particular, having not seen, like, I knew it pulled from a bunch of different things, and some of them I knew, but there are several things that are pulled right from this, which I didn't know, because this is the first time that I've seen this. And except for we watched the aftermath of the robbery, like chase through the streets in college, because it's significant for like its usage of sound effects and various things. But they're like, even like whole, like full on, like we're just gonna take this shot and we're just gonna do it. Like when he comes in, when I guess it's Val Kilmer, isn't it, comes into De Niro's house when he's not there after he has the fight, and he like sets his gun and his keys on the table, and then like goes over to stand by the glass.
No, that was
or was that Pacino?
No, that was De Niro.
That was De Niro?
Yeah, because that's when he looks down, and that's whenever he notices Val Kilmer's like sleeping on the floor.
No, it's earlier. It's like way earlier than that. It's the same house.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But it's
that.
before. But that's like exactly. I'm probably gonna like pull that and like put them up like side by side. And they'll either be like it'll go up on the YouTube page maybe, or there'll be like something on, like you'll be able to find it with something connected to the show. I'll put it embed it in the show notes or something, because like it's just dead on the same. And there are 2 or 3 other things that are like that too, where there's a lot of pulling from this. Even some things in the the robbery chase. There's some similarities, not as we just lifted this right out and set it over here, that like that bit in De Niro's house is, but it was interesting to be like, oh, okay, so that's from something too. Jon Voight has weird long hair.
He does, and it's creepy. Like, I was okay with the mustache, but
yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of like a Hulk Hogan mustache, except it's white and a little more dangly, but yeah, then his hair is just like, it's not really a mullet, but it's kind of like that, where like, it gets real long in the back.
High class mullet. I still do not approve.
No, it's not approved.
A mullet crafted by a professional.
Yeah, I guess. Ted Levine dies.
Yeah.
That was kind of sad, I guess. As much as anything was. I mean, because see, that's the thing, is like, I'm never sure whose side we're supposed to be on. And it's not like I can't decide, because like they both have merits. It's just like,
okay,
I guess like we're just watching both, because I'm never like, come on, catch him, and I'm never like, come on, get away with it. There's not that. Like, they have this scene in about the middle, I guess, where Pacino pulls over De Niro, and then they go to get coffee, and they talk about how like, I don't know how to do anything else. Well, I don't know how to do anything else, and I'm not going back to prison, and like, I'm going to try to put you in prison. And they just have this, I guess we're just going to always, which seems like if this was going to be a TV show, that maybe that is the, like, we're just going to be like just at odds all the time, for like, you know, we're going to be like Batman and Joker, like we need each other to exist.
Yeah.
But then that's not really manifested, except that that's true, that he's trying to get away with the stuff and he's trying to catch them. But I was never on anyone's side, and it was never like difficult, or I just mostly was like, okay, things are happening to 2 different groups of people. I don't feel any stake in this at all.
Well, one of the interesting things that I enjoyed about the diner scene is it's almost a little romantic. It's almost just a little bit. Just a little bit. And whenever he does tell Pacino about the whole 30-second rule thing, I wanted so bad to hear Al Pacino like make comment of, well, I guess that's why we can't be together, because I'll always be 30 seconds behind you.
I mean, I guess.
And then like you have the you have the criminal who's well disciplined and has like a solid lifestyle, if you will, solid lifestyle, if I can say it properly. While you have the cop, our good guy, who is very, I want to say he's undisciplined, even though he's really not, because of like how he behaves. Just like the way he fits within his own life is very chaotic and undisciplined. And so you are really looking at like two sides of that same coin.
Well, it kind of is, I guess, because he's on his third marriage, he says, and it's not really working either. And De Niro tells him, like, or not him, it tells the woman that he says, I'm alone, but I'm not lonely. And that seems to be the thing that Pacino hasn't realized yet, or hasn't learned to be yet, where he has not the same life, I guess the opposite life, but they're the same in that way, where it's really hard to have have relationships with other people if you're really deep into this.
Yeah.
And he hasn't, he, I guess, gets lonely because he keeps getting married and it keeps not working, but he keeps trying. And that was the thing, I think, that would have made it, was if we did know that there was something that De Niro had walked away from.
Yeah.
That if there was this kid and he was just like, I am totally out of this, I never show. Although it would be weird because like he was supposed to show up, so like there would be some kind of contact with him, I guess.
Yeah.
And then he just doesn't.
No. See, it wouldn't be as weird if he was asking her about calling him. Like, let's say he never calls the dad himself, and he's going to do it for her. And then when he gets the phone number, he's like, you know what, I want to know who this guy is. And then he runs it, and then he finds out that was an old phone number for the dude. And and it's just like, we just ran surveillance on this guy.
Or he hears the voice or something.
Yeah, it's like, what?
Because he does have realization moments like that. They're at the dockyards, and he's like,
oh, that was beautiful.
They're playing us. And De Niro is way over there with a big lens on the camera, and he's just smiling and stuff.
Oh, yeah. It was, and that was a good scene. Like, we got some good acting, and we got some good cinematography out of it, and it was fun to watch.
See, what we're really doing, I guess, is that we're trying to make this into Spider-Man Homecoming, where it's just like suddenly there's this turn, and you realize, oh, it's him, and it's the same guy, and they didn't know. Because that's it would be that kind of moment.
Yeah.
Which that moment was really impactful when it happened. And so we never really have that kind of moment here, because there isn't really that connection between anybody.
I can just see it now. Like, he hears the voice on the phone, and then my brain's just screaming, this is an Avengers level threat! Oh, that's so dumb. So dumb. No. But we couldn't have that anyways.
Yeah.
We couldn't have that anyways. Stop it. Because at the end of the movie, he does kind of have feelings for the lady who worked at the bookstore. Because they did try to push that as a form of progression before he's like, revenge.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's willing to do that, then that means that if they followed this thing where he ended up being the daughter, then why would he do that? But he wouldn't want to be connected to his daughter after she almost kills herself. It's that kind of, paradox. Like, you can't have it this way without also having it this way, because it would go against that character development.
Yeah.
So I'm not angry that they didn't do it. It was just something kind of interesting to think about for a moment. Oh, the two sides same coin thing. De Niro has no furniture, and Pacino takes back his television set, and then he throws it in the road in front of people, when I almost thought he was just going to let him have it.
I thought he was going to say, hey, do you want a television set? And he doesn't do it. He just tosses out.
Yeah.
And they're like, what is this guy doing?
Like, when he's driving off, you can see like them laughing. Like they're just pointing at it. Like one guy actually walks into the road. What is this?
And it busts all up. There is a lot of spending time with characters that we don't know what they're for until way later. Like the guy that ends up being the getaway driver, like we see him get a job and we know he's on parole from prison, but we have no idea who he is or why we're spending time with him until way later. And then De Niro's like, well, Danny Trejo got killed, so how about you be the driver? And then it all kind of comes together, but it's a long time. It's like an hour of movie before we understand why we're spending time with this guy.
Yes, especially for the payoff. Like, they could have easily had him be a character that just was there, that they happened to recognize, because that's essentially what happens.
Yeah.
We don't need to know who he is, because De Niro literally tells the people at the table who he is, and then goes up to him and talks to him, and we get to see all of that.
Which, even though we've spent time with him, we don't really know much more about him than that.
Other than, like...
Except that he does, like, the guy that he works for is, like, really unpleasant, and that he wouldn't have much hesitation of blowing off the job, even though it's going to blow his parole. But then he dies anyway, so it doesn't matter. Although I don't think he has intention of dying when he takes the job.
No.
But I guess if he makes out on the job, then he can escape to somewhere with the money, and he won't go back to jail anyway, or will be trying not to go back to jail anyway.
Yeah, he'd get about $3 million.
So in 2016, Christopher Nolan interviewed Robert De Niro and Al Pacino about Heat for The Independent. And Pacino said that the way that he played the character was as if he was on cocaine the whole time. And we just didn't know. I don't know if you can really see that or if it matters. But that's what he said.
He couldn't have been doing it the whole time.
Well, he says the whole time.
There's no way. Like, he's got to be making this up just because of what he can remember now that he's old.
Yeah, that it's
because like he's
20 years later.
Yeah, because he's got like some scenes that are not required high energy maintenance. So there's no reason to act like you're on cocaine for it. So it would have just been unnecessary.
Yeah. There's no reason for him to be. I guess he did work narcotics at an earlier point in time, we're told. So maybe it's just supposed to be an extra complexity to his character, or that he's not as pure as he's trying to tell De Niro that he is, because he used to fight against drugs, but he's on cocaine still now anyway.
But I feel like that's so sloppy, because he said if he's gonna say I acted like I was on cocaine, well, then we're not getting that in the story.
No. Well, so the thing is that we've seen Pacino acting like he's on cocaine.
Yeah.
Before, and
I'm pretty convinced.
Yeah, like we believed he was on cocaine.
I mean, it also helped that there was some on his face, but...
Well, no, but I mean, even apart from that, it is not really evident and not really additive.
I'm trying to think of another scene.
Well, there are a lot of scenes, because it's, over 2.5 hours long, but I don't know how much there really is to sort of break apart. Now, I mean, there are things that if you were doing it like moment by moment, you could break apart and look at and maybe analyze a little more closely, but trying to do that out of sequence and remember, after it having been 3 hours of watching it. I did notice that, I don't know if it means anything, but De Niro's character drinks a lot of coffee.
Yes.
And also doesn't own any furniture.
No.
And so I don't know if that means like he's always like he doesn't sleep very much, because he also gets up and leaves the bookstore woman in the middle of the night. So he doesn't even sleep all night there. So it seems maybe it's like he's always alert or something. Because when he comes into the house and notices Val Kilmer is there, he pours him a cup of coffee from a pot of coffee that only has a little coffee left in it. So maybe it kind of seems like he's had most of a pot of coffee by the time he bothered to wake up Val Kilmer. And I don't know if that's what's happening or not. But also he has no furniture, but he has a coffee pot. And like he has coffee in the restaurant with the bookstore woman, which that bookstore is really extensive.
It's bustling.
But I mean, like they have like in the section he's in the mechanical engineering section, but like right next to that is like another specific kind of engineering, and it's like a whole separate like standing shelf, and it has a sign over it. And so it's like we don't just have an engineering section or like a technical books section. Like we're breaking it down. So we have all kinds of categories of books in this bookstore. And so it seems like it might be a really impressive bookstore. We don't get to see very much of it.
I noticed that you come into the bookstore quite often.
Uh-huh.
Oh, well, sorry that I was being an ass.
Yeah, but she was, I guess. But it was a little bit like, hey, what you reading? Why are you reading that? What kind of work you do?
Yeah,
and
like I can see
there's
why
a lot of questions. Like it's really legitimate for him to be suspicious. Being
like, who the hell are you?
Who are you? Why are you asking all these questions? I don't know you. Why are you interested in this book about metal that I'm reading?
Like, wait a minute.
Should I be concerned about this? Are you the heat? Is the heat like not even around the corner? Is it on the stool next to me at the coffee shop?
I'm wondering if he discovered like iced coffee, if that's all he'd ever drink.
I don't know.
Just so he could sense the heat better. Haha, got him.
So how do you feel about stars?
This one's difficult because I kind of just want to give it a 3. Because I'm like, it's okay. I enjoyed watching it, but it's just like, yeah, I'm not going to think about this movie probably ever again unless someone else brings it up. Hey, what's your favorite Al Pacino movie? Not The Heat.
No. Yeah, it's hard to say because it's like there's not really much wrong with it, I suppose, but it is a lot of it just seems like a long series of events that I'm not sure how to feel about mostly. But you know, it's really well acted. It's well directed, I suppose. It's also it's written and directed by Michael Mann. So if there's anyone to blame for anything, or for a lot of it, we can blame him. But even though it's long, I was never really like bored or anything. It's
like that's what makes it so difficult, though.
It is. It's tough.
Like I'm not because like okay, so was it a little fun? Yeah, it was a little fun. Was it a little interesting? Yeah, it's a little interesting. Did I hate watching it? Nah. Would I recommend it to people? I mean, if that's their thing, yeah, sure. Am I gonna watch this again out of my own volition? No.
No, probably not. I mean,
was the acting good? Yeah. It's just there's just something about it that just makes me go like.
I mean, it really.
I'm gonna go and watch Glengarry Glen Ross again.
Well, I mean,
because I enjoyed that more than this.
Well, you know, I of course do. You know, one day we'll pull it out of the fishbowl or whatever alternate method that we have of it. It's not, you know, just slightly short of 3 hours long though. So, and I know how to feel about things.
Yeah.
In that. Like, it really is just that I'm not sure what we're supposed to think. Like, am I supposed to want them to get caught? I mean, they mostly don't really, like, they steal some money, I guess, and they do shoot the armored car guys at the beginning. So I guess that makes them worse than just they stole some money. But they don't kill anybody at the bank. They shoot some police escaping. But he doesn't like he saves that little girl that is just left in the middle of the park.
Yes, you are right.
And he doesn't seem to be intending to use her as a hostage or as a shield or anything. He's just like, come on, little girl, like you're like in the middle of this. Let me move you over here. And then he gets shot before he can do anything with her.
Well, see, that's the thing is like if you're paying attention to it, he doesn't know that Al Pacino is behind him.
No.
And so as he's running, the little girl gets stuck there. So he picks her up and then he starts to run off. But whenever he goes back to the firefight with the other police officers, he is hiding the little girl behind him. And we can tell because the camera is the POV of Al Pacino, and she's in the way of him allowing him that shot. It's not until he turns around that he can get the shot in. So he was keeping the little girl from getting accidentally hit by the police.
Yeah. So
at least that guy, I'll give him a little bit more credit.
So like, sure, I guess they should get caught because they're, breaking the law. But it's not really, I'm not like, yeah, get them because they're so bad. Like there's never that like, get them, Al Pacino. But I don't really want them to get away either. Like I'm perfectly fine when they don't get away. So it's a weird kind of non-feeling that I had about it. Now you said POV. It's actually technically POV. There is literally a POV shot like almost at the end, and it's weird because we've never had one of those before. Yeah. And
well, like that's why it stood out.
It's like like it's attached to his head, where like it's it's shaken up and down, and it looks like it's attached to his head while he's running, and it's weird because there's never anything else like that. There is some weirdness earlier. I forgot about this. I guess I have to give it 3 too. So I'll just do that before I talk about this other thing. But when he's chasing after De Niro down the highway so that he can pull him over and take him to have their existential scene in the coffee shop, there's some weird inconsistency between what's kind of the POV of the car and then anytime we see the car from the outside. Because when you're in the, like, if it was a video game, it would be like the bumper cam. That it looks like almost like it's sped up. Like you would have in an old movie where they couldn't do it fast enough and they couldn't fake it in any legitimate way. So they would just shoot at normal speed and just speed it up. You have this a lot in a lot of the older James Bond movies, and not just car chases, but in like fist fights and stuff. And they'll just speed it up, and it has this weird thing about it because it looks not natural because it's not. And then when you see it from the outside, like he's driving fast, I guess, but not like when it's from the bumper cam, it's almost like if you take the first Fast and Furious movie and like when they hit the NOS button, but you take away all the trails off of stuff, but it's like an unnatural speed kind of look. That's what it looks like, and it's really odd. And they only do that one time too. So there are these few things where there's just a moment where we made a particular stylistic choice to do this thing that we're never going to do again and haven't done before, and I'm not sure what it means. Like the camera mounted to his head later is not like, well, this is fine, I guess. It's just weird that you never did this because there's a lot of foot chases other times. But it's not like, what are you doing here? Like the sped up driving is it's not even really a car chase because De Niro doesn't know he's being chased. He's just driving along. Which also, he has like 4 or 5 different cars just throughout the thing. Like he's driving a different car almost every time we see him.
Mm-hmm. I think that's his normal car because that's how they were able to trace him.
I guess so, because he has like this white Lincoln or something when they're at the I can't remember which place it is. I guess the shipyard, and he has the station wagon that gets wrecked at the whatever that giant parking lot is where the Van Zandt tries to have them killed, and then he's driving that car, which I think is a Cadillac there. And it's like, it's not just when they're doing a job, so they have specialized cars. It's just like he has a variety of cars. He has more cars than he has furniture.
One car. One car would be more cars than he has furniture.
I guess. Well, there is some kind of like, I don't know, like an ottoman or something that one of them sits on, but it's like there's no couch to go with it or tables or anything, and nothing large enough to sleep on because Val Kilmer is just like on the floor, and he's like, "You got to get some furniture," and which there is almost like I haven't gotten around to it. Like that recurs a couple of times, but not enough where it's really a character thing where he's always getting around to things.
I think that's just like his excuse. Like, yeah, I'm getting around to it.
Because he says it another time or two, but it's not a thing.
Ah! It's hot.
And that's all I have to say about Heat.
Follow us on Twitter.
And, everyone, look at the show notes. There's lots of stuff to follow us at. Go to the YouTube page. It's the same name as the show.
Like and subscribe.
Look around.
Thanks.
We'll see you next time.
Later.
It's hot out here. Well, that's our show. If you'll excuse me, got some infrared radiation to monitor. See you next time.